Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing the DIY. This is the pumpkin football sign. I need 2 of the pumpkins off of it. I already had 2 off of a previous one because my sister wanted 4. I'll save the footballs and that extra pumpkin and I'll do something with it later. I am going to be painting all 4 of them. My sister wants orange pumpkins. So I am taking my sanding block and I'm adding a sanding piece of paper over it because the grit is stronger. It's a higher grit number than the block itself, and I'm just sanding where the staples were just to help out the holes a little bit. You could go in with some wood filler or some spackle, but with how I'm going to distress the pumpkins and add lines on it, you can't really see the holes unless you're looking for them. So I'm going to do that to all 4 of these pumpkins. Now I'm flipping it over, and where it says friends and family and a few other words, I'm just sanding the glitter off. So that way, when I hot glue the pumpkins to those 3 signs, it will adhere better and it won't leave glitter everywhere. You can rip that off or just sand it off like I did. So I'm going to sand the glitter off of each pumpkin. There's 4 of them. Now I'm taking my Waverly chalk paint in the color pumpkin, and I will be doing 2 coats for each pumpkin. So I'm just painting it, giving it a good even coat. I also paint the edges of it so that way you can't tell that it's cardboard and it blends in. On the edge, I only do 1 coat, and then once the first coat is completely dry, then I'll come back and do a second coat, and then when that's dry, I will do the stem of the pumpkins, and I will do that in the color truffle. So let me do all 4 of these and then I'll come back. So while my pumpkins are drying with the first coat, I'm taking my hot glue gun and I'm going to add some hot glue to the top of one of the signs while it's standing up and the image of the block is facing me, or you could flip it around however you want to do it. And then I will grab another block and set it right on top of it and line it up, and then repeat that till all 3 of them are connected. Now I'm just taking the sign and just squeezing it really tight, making sure that it's really well held together. You could also use E6000, so this is what it'll look like. Now I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to give it 2 really good coats of Mineral by Waverly chalk paint. It's like a really pretty gray. It does show up light, but then once it dries, it's a little bit darker. So I'm going to give it 2 good coats, and I do let it dry in between coats so you can get the best results. The pumpkins are still drying, so once that's done, I'll add a second coat. I don't think I film the second coat. I just come back once it's done. So you just want to paint the whole top and the sides. If you're going to have it laying down or standing up against something, you don't need to worry about the back of those 3 signs, But if you're gonna have it on a coffee table or somewhere where you're gonna see the back, then you want to take off the tags. You can use a heat gun or a blow dryer to warm up the tags and peel them off, and then do 2 coats on the back. But if you're going to have it up against a wall or where you won't see the back of it, then don't worry about painting the back, because I don't paint the back of it because I'm not sure where my sister is going to put it, but I'm pretty sure she won't have the back of the sign showing. So I'm going to give this 2 good coats, and then I'll come back and I will show you what I do next. So I've already done 2 coats of the pumpkin. Now I'm taking Truffle from Waverly Chalk Paint as well, and I'm going to be using that to distress these 3 signs, and these 3 signs have 2 coats of the mineral. And I'm also using the Truffle to paint the stems on the pumpkins and to add my lines. So I'm taking a really thin art brush and painting the stem. I also do the sides so that way you can't see the cardboard color. Just taking my time to not overdo the stem. I don't want it to come down too far, so I just take my time with it. And this will get 2 coats as well. Each pumpkin will get 2 coats. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will come right back and I will show you the next step. Now I'm going to take that same brush, dip it in my truffle color, and run it on the paper to get a lot of it off to do my lines. There's no right or wrong way to really do this, and you guys will see me go over it with some sandpaper, and then I take the pumpkin color and go back over. So I just eyeball it and make my first line around the edge on both sides, and then I go in closer and closer to the middle of the pumpkin. So the less paint on your brush, the better, especially if you're new at dry brushing. It doesn't come out perfect. I like the way it comes out, even if some spots are darker. Obviously, it's up to you and your liking. So this is how I dry brush. So I'm going to do this to each of the pumpkins. So as you see here, I grab my pumpkin color and an even smaller brush, so that way I can go over any imperfections. If I did a lot of strokes and you can see a lot of the truffle in one area and not in a whole lot, same concept. You dip it in your orange color, take some of it off by rubbing it on the paper or a paper towel, and then just rub it right over where you want to cover up your spots. Now I'm just taking some more of the truffle to go over some of the lines that aren't as dark as the other ones. I'm not trying to make them super dark, but a few of them did come out a little bit lighter. So I'm just going on every pumpkin, checking the lines, going over any parts that I feel like need more truffle, and then I go back over with any parts that need more pumpkin. While the pumpkin's dry, I'm taking that same art brush that I used for the stems and the lines on the pumpkin, and I'm dry brushing the edges and like the border of the sign. Now this one, you don't need to take as much off because I'm going to grab my sandpaper and make sure I get all the edges, so it will take some of it off of it again. And then I'm also going to use the truffle to go into the middle where each sign is connected to make it kind of look like staggered or like a fence kind of thing. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. And then I go over the whole entire thing. And then I take my sanding paper and you will see me go over some of the spots that came out a little darker than others. So I grab my sanding paper and I put it over the block. And as you can see, there's a few spots that are a little bit darker than the rest. So don't worry about it. Don't stress. You can just sand it, or you can just go back over it with the mineral color or whatever colors you're deciding to do. So I'm just taking it and roughing up the edges a bit to get any of the imperfections and any bubbles or anything like that. Now I'm taking my sandpaper and going over the pumpkin on the lines to do the same thing and lighten up a few of the lines that were a little bit darker. So when doing that, I noticed that it turned the pumpkin color yellow. So I did go back off camera. Once I was done with everything, I noticed it was yellow. So once I was done, I did go back in with some of the pumpkin color and touched it back up to give it that orange color. So do be aware of that if you are going to use the sandpaper on the pumpkin for the lines. it will turn the pumpkin color a yellow. So you'll be able to see where I added it. Just go back over it with the pumpkin color or whatever color you're using. As you can see, the one over there on the floor, you can see that it looks a little bit yellowish. So just be aware of that. I didn't know at the time, and when I did it for mine were white and truffle, so it didn't do that. Now I'm taking some more of the truffle to go over where it looked a little bit yellow, and just adding some more onto the lines where I thought it needed it. Now I'm taking the truffle and adding a second coat on the stem. I don't do the sides, just the front of it on each of the pumpkins. So I had just placed the pumpkins where I wanted them, and I'm taking the first one and just putting hot glue on the back of it. It is dry, and I'm just tracing the whole entire back with some hot glue, making sure there's enough on there and it will stay on. And then I'll show you how much I use. I'll flip it over and I'll show you. And then I just place it where I want it and push down. And then I will do that to the second one that's going to lay down flat. And then the other two are going to lay kind of on top of each other. So now I'm taking the second one and putting a lot of hot glue on the back of it. And then I'm going to lay it down completely flat and push it down. But I'm leaving enough room to fit a pumpkin in the middle and one more on the edge. So I do grab one to just lay it there real quick to see if it's a good enough spacing. And then this one, I only put glue on the edges. There's no need for the middle because it's not going to touch the actual sign. It's only going to touch the two pumpkins. But I do put enough so that way it'll stick to both pumpkins. And then I do that to the last one. So this is what it looks like. You could stop here. You could add little bows on each of the pumpkins right where the stem ends. But I'm taking some lamb's ear that I got from Walmart and just pulling off the leaves and hot gluing them to the bottom of the two middle pumpkins, trying to keep it in the middle. So once it's all hot glued, this is what it's going to look like. I think it came out so cute, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you guys. If it was, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.